Hey guys, welcome to episode 2 of the Grind Never Stops podcast. We are new to Sportscaster. We are also on Apple Podcast. We're also as well on Spotify. You can search us up at Grind Never Stops podcast. So today we will talk about Houston. Well, we're going to talk about many teams, but we will start talking about the Houston Rockets. And the question we have here is, should the Rockets break up the duo of Russell Westbrook and James Harden? And my opinion, I think they should, because getting Russell Westbrook was a bad move by Morey, who stepped down as the GM of the Rockets, because you can't have two ball hogs on one team, and that was the problem for the Rockets. And not only that they didn't have a legit big man, and the tallest player on that team was Robert Covington at 6'7". So the Rockets need to trade Russell. Well, not need, but they should trade Russell Westbrook. And I'm not criticizing Russell Westbrook, but you just can't have both of them on one team. And you're not gonna trade James Harden. I think you should keep Harden and trade Westbrook, because you know Westbrook is gonna get his triple doubles. Is going to get his like 20 points, 20 rebounds, or 9 assists. But it's not going well, man. And the past seasons, the Houston Rockets had the Lakers numbers, but once the playoffs started, it was over. It was over. And yes, the Rockets won one game, but that's about it. But guys, it's like you will get a lot of value for Russell Westbrook. So much value for us. You can trade him to the Knicks. You can trade him to any team, and you'll get someone back. Which a team that would work good, would have a trio, would be Russell Westbrook, D'Angelo Russell, and Karl Anthony Towns. But is Russell Westbrook worth trading the first overall pick of the draft? Absolutely not. But the Timberwolves don't want to let go of D'Lo or Cat. So the only piece that they can get for Russell Westbrook is number 1 pick, which is predicted to be LaMelo Ball. And before we talk about LaMelo Ball, I would like to say that the Rockets need to find a way on what they're gonna do with the team that they have now. Either trade Russell Westbrook for a big man, or for a point guard, or trade James. Thanks for the follow, Mary Bell fan. Welcome. Sorry, but I think that Rockets need to trade one of them too, because you can't have two ball hogs and have no big men on the floor. So I think they need to trade Russell Westbrook. And yes, everyone has said that you can trade Harden for a superstar big man. But do you really want to pair up Westbrook with Embiid? That didn't work. It's not working in Philadelphia with Ben Simmons, who can't shoot three, and Russell Westbrook cannot shoot threes. He cannot shoot threes. And the kind of player that you need to pair up with James Harden is you need to shoot the three. You need to do a lot of things on the floor. Like if your 3-point shooting is not working, you can still dunk, you can drive, you can hit free throws. But the problem was also Westbrook. He can't hit threes. He struggled from mid-range, and he couldn't get it done. And I'm not blaming the Rockets' playoff exit to Russell Westbrook, but just the team overall is not built well for the playoffs. The Lakers were built AD, LeBron, Rondo, Caruso, Green, KCP, McGee, Dwight Howard, Kuzma. You gotta have a legit starting lineup and a legit bench. And this was a problem. And now we can go to the Bucks. This was the problem with the Milwaukee Bucks. That was the problem. They did not have a legitimate bench. Their whole starting lineup struggled all series long against the Miami Heat. Eric Bledsoe, Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez, and even Giannis Antetokounmpo struggled. Giannis Antetokounmpo struggled from the floor. He couldn't get anything, and that why the Milwaukee Bucks lost is because Giannis Antetokounmpo got exposed by his own defense. And that was the problem. But guys, now I would like to talk about the club. Before we talk about the draft, we'll talk about the LA Clippers. Los Angeles Clippers. They needed to do a lot of things, man. Because they need to come with a game plan. They need to have a thing that teams could stop. Because now it was easy to stop the Clippers. They had zero team chemistry. Because as I said before in my other podcast, I said if the LA Clippers had team chemistry, we wouldn't be here talking about Kawhi Leonard 16 points, 4 for 20 shooting. We wouldn't be here talking about Paul George 10 points or Montrezl Harrell and Lou Will having drama with Paul George and Kawhi. We wouldn't be here if there was chemistry. And guys, that's why they lost. That's why they exited in the way they did. They blew the lead, and now there's no chemistry right now, and they need to make a decision on Patrick Beverley, on Lou Williams, on Paul George. They need to make a decision because right now you losing Montrezl Harrell, and if you trade Sweet Lou and Patrick Bev, you will lose big time because that was your bench. Montrezl Harrell was your bench. Sweet Lou. And this is the problem. That was the problem for the Clippers. They can get things done. And that's why I have a problem because they're a good team. I want a Clipper-Laker Western Conference Final showdown. Because that would be sick. That would be fire. Kawhi, George against AD and James. And we're not here talking about the Clippers losing to a high-powered team. They lost to the Nuggets. They also blew a 3-1 lead to the Denver Nuggets, who's run by 6'4" point guard Jamal Murray and 7-foot center Jokic, the Joker. and you couldn't stop it. And that was the problem. But let's move on. So LaMelo Ball, like, I'll be honest with you, LaMelo Ball has more, what can I say, skills than his brother, than what that Zoe had when he got drafted. And that's why Lonzo Ball was overrated, man. He was overrated. Like, he shouldn't got drafted that high, because as soon as he got drafted, he didn't have a consistent jumper. He didn't have a consistent 3-point shooting. He couldn't score. All he was doing was rebound and pass. He didn't even had the defense that he's playing now. Because later on in the season, then he picked it up. As you saw last season with the Pels, he picked up his 3-point shooting. He picked up his scoring ways, his free throws, his rebounding, his dimes. And that's why Lonzo is the right player for Zion Williams. And that's why the Pels should be very, very careful about Ben Ingram. They should resign, because he was the most improved player. His stats went up big time. And we're not going to be here saying that he put up these stats on a bad team. Yes, they missed the playoffs, but that's not a bad team. They have Drew Holiday, Lonzo Ball, Zion Williams, Ben Ingram, which is him, JJ Redick, Derek Favors, Alvin Hayes. They got good players. They're not as good as they think they are, but it's not a bad team. Like, I could say they're better than the Phoenix Suns or the Sacramento Kings. So now LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball could help many, many, many teams right now, especially the number one worst franchise in the NBA. Not worst, but trashiest team the past 5 to 10 years is the New York Knicks. Because I don't like their depth at the point guard position. I don't like it, man. Frank Ntilikina, Dennis Smith Jr. No, man. I don't like. You can get a lot of value, but it will come as a risk. Because if you keep Dennis Smith, you trade Ntilikina, and then you trade Mitch Robinson, and then you trade Kevin Knox. These players can get you a Russell Westbrook. These players can get you a LaMelo Ball. These players can get you a legitimate point guard. Chris Paul. We forgot Chris Paul, but Chris Paul is another point guard that the Knicks could trade for. Because the Knicks, all they need is that one leader, that one guy. And no, I'm not saying Westbrook is a leader or LaMelo, but Chris Paul is. And all they need is a one star to get things back to normal, back to the good old days of the Knicks. Because that one player could lead this team to the next step that can bring other players to form a playoff team in the East. And don't get me wrong, the Knicks are one player or two from making the playoffs in the East. Obviously, if the New York Knicks was in the West, they need 3-4 stars. But since you're in the Eastern Conference, all you need is either 1 or 2 players. Because right now is very bad, man. It's horrible what they have now. Like their death at the point guard position, their death at the shooting guard position has question because RJ Barrett didn't play well. In fact, he played disaster as their as their like top draft pick last season, number 8, number 5, and he struggled. 14 points. That can't cut. That can't cut it. And expect RJ to have a better season. And this is the problem, man. Like with those Antetokounmpos, the Barretts, and all these guys, you gotta change your game to be the best. Because look, what did Steph Curry did, gentlemen? He changed the way it's played. Why? Because if he didn't play the way he plays, he wouldn't be winning NBA titles. He wouldn't be winning MVPs or 3-point shooting records. Or that's the problem with the other guys. With the Antetokounmpos. Giannis Antetokounmpo should have changed his game. When he played the Orlando Magic, he should have changed his game. Well, Orlando Magic, whatever, but as soon as you played Miami, who are a legitimate team, he should have went and grabbed his team and said, guys, just follow me. Just follow me. I'll take this team to the promised land, which was supposed to be the NBA Finals, or at least the Eastern Conference Final. But this was Milwaukee Bucks' best chance to win, because there's gonna be more competitive teams this season whenever this season starts. And thanks for everyone who's tuned in. Roby fan, Cubby Girl, Drew Tester. Thanks for everyone who's tuned in to this live segment of the Grind Never Stops podcast. You can donate. You can send us your support. You can ask us questions, and we'll be glad to answer you. This is episode 2. So we talked about the Rockets, about LaMelo, and we'll move on to the Raptors. So they have 2 key free agents in Serge Ibaka and Freddie, Steady Freddy, Fred VanVleet. And I know Fred VanVleet is looking for the max. But between you and me,